I'm Sam, and this is my daughter Claire, and we're here at the Clarkson Family Farm Market, and we are talking about Irish stew today. So we have our recipe here, and we have soup bags all made up for you with carrots, parsnip, potatoes, onion, and garlic, the little sprig of rosemary from our greenhouse. And we're going to show you how to make the stew later, but also over here we have local sustainable chuck roasts. We have different kinds of chuck roast. We have a beef English roast and a bone beef roast. And over here we have our stew that's already been made.
I'm Chelsea O'Brien. I'm here at the Clarkson Family Farm Sunflower Market for our cooking lab. This is Irish stew. And we're making it on a special day. It's St. Patty's Day! Top of the morning to you.
St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, St. Patty's Day, St. Patrick's Day. It's a fun day for making a family meal in one pot. One pot family meal. This is Sean. This is Claire. They're going to help me make our Irish stew. And you'll notice here we've got some ingredients. I would prep a lot of these ingredients first, and then you can just go through and add them into your pot. And it takes only about a half an hour to put this entire thing together. So what's our ingredient here that I'm working on right now? This is our really high quality beef. This is a chuck beef that we had from Berger Family Farm. It is sustainably raised. We don't add any hormones or antibiotics. You can feel really good about eating this high quality meat. And we want it to be, what does it say here? 1.5 inch cubes. Is that what it says,
Yep.
Claire? 1.5 inch cubes. So I'm gonna hold this up for you. Go ahead and take a little time. Make sure that your meat is thawed though. When you come into the market, you can get all of these ingredients for your Irish stew, but your meat will be frozen solid. So you're gonna have to prep it a little bit by just making sure that it's thawed. Now, as I'm chopping this up, and I know, kids, that you can do some of the chopping, and we'll talk a little bit about some knife skills to use. There is some marbling in here, which adds a lot of richness to your stew. If you wanted to make a leaner Irish stew, you can cut some of that out, but I wouldn't be too stingy with that marbling. It's going to add a lot of flavor. And again, this is already a really lean meat to begin with, just because of the nature of how our beef is raised, okay? So we've got, what does it say for our, how much? How many pounds of beef chuck?
2 pounds of beef chuck cut into 1/2 inch squares.
1.5 inch squares. Could you make them a little smaller? Sure you could. We're gonna do 1.5 inch squares just like the recipe. Now there's also a bone in this one. You could cut around it if you would like, or if you had a nice big slow roaster, your slow cooker, you could just throw that bone in there, and again, what is it going to add? A lot of flavor, a lot of richness. All right, so our beef looks like it's pretty well chopped. Because my slow cooker is a little smaller, I'm going to set this aside. I might use it for making like a lentil stew later, or add it to just another type of vegetable stew to add a little richness and flavor. I want to point something else out. This is a plastic cutting board. When I am cooking with meat, I like to use plastic because you can really sterilize it. I like wooden cutting boards as well, but I generally save my wooden cutting boards for vegetables. I use my plastic cutting boards for beef. All right, now Claire, my reader, let's go back over here and let's go to our directions. What was that first part of the directions?
Heat the oil on a large skillet over medium heat.
All right, so we've got a large skillet over here, and I'm gonna let you put this down. I'm gonna let you and Sean measure out how much olive oil? What did it say?
2 tablespoons of olive oil.
Tablespoons, not teaspoons, tablespoons. See if you and Sean can find the tablespoon. Okay, I'm gonna trust you to do that. While you're doing that, I'm gonna wash my hands again, okay?
Is the small ones tablespoons?
I bet you
Those
Claire
ones
can
are
tell you.
teaspoons. See?
Oh.
T stands for tablespoon, and that's for B. And then S is for spoon. SP is for spoon.
Did you identify which one was the tablespoon? Hold it up so we can see. Yeah, it's the biggest one. That's the tablespoon one. Okay, come over here. Now, this is a hot skillet. So, just like with knives, we can use hot skillets, we can use knives, but we just have to make sure that we're using our brains and our common sense. So we're not gonna touch it with our hands, right, Sean?
Okay.
Definitely not. And I want you to hold the tablespoon, okay? Hold it flat like this. And then I'm gonna have Claire pour in how many tablespoons? Do you remember?
2.
2. Go ahead. And what's nice about doing it in the market, we've got all wipeable surfaces and our floor is a cement floor.
There's
So if a little
one.
drips on the floor, that's okay. All right, Sean, I'm gonna take over from here, buddy. Add 1. Let's do the other one. You're doing a great job working as a team. I love cooking with kids. I love cooking with my family. It's a really great way to work on our math skills, our reading skills, and it develops a lot of confidence. Kids can cook. Just supervise. Make sure that we're following basic safety. All right, Claire, remember what we were saying with the directions. We're going to saute this. Can you read it again for me?
Heat the oil in a large skillet over medium heat. Toss the beef cubes with flour to coat, then fry in the hot oil until brown.
So, how much flour? How much flour do we need? We're going to toss it with flour.
3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour.
Sean, you remember, was that our tablespoon?
Yes.
It sure was, so we need 3. Now, with this part, we don't have to be so precise. And guess what? I'm not using a heated skillet. So Sean, you can use this. Go ahead.
Okay.
Count it out.
1,
Very good.
2,
Excellent. And if it's a heaping tablespoon, we don't care.
3.
We're just tossing it. High fives, buddy.
Wait.
Nice job.
More there.
Good job. Oh, really high five. Okay, great. Even the flour that we're tossing our beef in, we're using the highest quality ingredients. If you watched our first video on making quiche, I said, if you don't start with really high quality, delicious, fresh ingredients, your end product's not gonna be great. So, really good olive oil, really good flour, excellent, excellent beef. Okay, this skillet has some hot oil. We need to toss this around a little bit, okay? Now, hair back, hands washed, sleeves up. Can we use our fingers to toss this around? Yes, we can, because our hands are
Washed.
they're washed, they're clean. Okay, go ahead and toss some of that beef around. I might make this recipe a little bit smaller because my crock pot is a little smaller. But please do follow the recipe on this. And can you make it in a regular, big saucepan? Of course you can. You can just stir it occasionally and it will take you less time. The recipe that we gave you is for a slow cooker, 6 to 8 hours. I've got a little slow cooker here. If you've got a big slow cooker, you can use the entire recipe. Okay, let's take a peek at how are we doing. Are they well tossed? Yeah, those look great. They're nice and coated. Okay, good. So I'm gonna go over here. Now guess what you guys get to do? Wash your hands. I don't care if you wash your hands 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times while you're cooking. More hand wash.
Claire and I are going to show you how to prepare your vegetables. In this recipe, we have potatoes and carrots. And something that you can do is peel your carrots. Something else is sometimes the carrots don't have very thick skins. You can see here that there's not much skin. So if you wanted to, you could just kind of give them a good scrub. And that way you're not having any waste. We've got some purple carrots here too. And of course I'll wash the potatoes because they come from the ground. They might have some dirt. And here's your parsnips. Those skins were a little thicker, so we did take them off. And of course you always want to save your scraps for your compost. So how many potatoes do we need?
We need 6 large potatoes
So while
peeled
the
and
girls, while Sam and her daughter Claire are working hard on getting the vegetables all prepped, I was keeping an eye on our beef. Let's get a little closer so you can see what it's supposed to look like. So we tossed our beef, we cooked it on a medium-high temperature, so we're really caramelizing that. Look at how nice that looks. It's just seared. See how these edges are seared? That locks that juicy flavor inside. So we're good here. And I'm gonna turn this off now. Just kind of keep it warm. That's gonna go into our pot, but the beef is good. This is what it's supposed to look like. I would say medium-high temperature, about 5 minutes each side. But get that nice caramely dark brown sear on the edge, okay? Cool, let's go back to veg.
Okay, here we are back with our veggies. And Claire here has a beautiful white carrot, and we notice that the top here is a little bit green. So this would be where the carrot was above the ground and it photosynthesized. So it's probably not gonna have the best flavor. We're just gonna go ahead and cut that off. But before we cut that off, we wanna talk a little bit about knife safety. This knife is very, very sharp, so we're gonna be responsible with it, and we wanna keep our fingers far away from where our knife is. Something else that you wanna do is when you're cutting, you don't wanna cut into yourself, you wanna cut away from yourself. So Claire can show you a little bit better. She's been practicing. Push straight down on that. There you go, that's a big carrot. All right, and we're just gonna chop this up. Hi, this is Sam again, and I'm here with Jimmy. He's my son, and we're going to show you a little bit about parsnips here. They look very similar to a carrot, but they are different. You probably wouldn't want to grab one and munch on it. You would want to put these into your oven and roast them and caramelize them, or put them into a stew, and that will bring out the sweetness. He's going to just chop up some carrots for our stew. We'll keep that knife away from our fingers. And Jimmy has a nice skill here where he puts his knuckles out.
Hi. We take all of our scraps and we'll either feed them to our chickens or our bunnies. And once we get pigs, maybe we'll do our
potatoes
pigs.
here. And you'll notice that we didn't peel these. This is because we want to keep the vegetable intact, and there's actually a lot of nutrients in your potato skins, more so than in the insides. So we decided to leave it on. If you would like to peel it, feel free. Okay, so 1 sweet onion, medium-sized chunks. Claire said she would let me do this because it made her eyes burn a little bit. Usually what I do is I like to cut the ends off, and then I will peel this outer layer off of the onion. Sometimes an onion can kind of be a little rolly, so I like to cut it in half, and then I usually lay it down. That makes it a little bit safer for me. And medium-sized chunks, I think about what I could fit into my mouth. So I'm gonna cut it into quarters there and slice it down, and yeah, I can feel that onion in my eye. There you go.
All right, we're working through all these ingredients. So olive oil, check. Flour, check. We got our beef. We did our carrots. We did our parsnip. We did our onion. We did our potatoes. But I'm noticing, what's this say, Claire?
We need 2 cloves of garlic minced.
Minced. There are 2 ways to do garlic. There's probably more than 2 ways to do garlic, but there's 2 ways to do garlic. Each one of these cloves are actually the seeds. So if you were to plant these, you would get an entire garlic plant. So this is the root of the garlic. And we're gonna do 2 cloves. This is a nice medium-sized garlic here. Now it's got this papery outing on it, and we're gonna wanna take that off. So if you were to mince it with a knife, you wanna take your paper. It's not really paper, obviously, but it's really the outside of this garlic seed is what we're talking about. And then you could chop it just like this and just mince it up, right? So that would be one way. I've also seen people like actually press it so it kind of splays out, and you can do garlic like that. And you want to have garlic pretty finely minced. Can you smell it, Claire? Boy, if we thought we could smell the onion, now we've got some garlic going. I love garlic and onion. They are strong smells, but you start to roast those up, stew them up, saute them up. It just adds so much flavor. Can you get close and you can see what that mincing looks like? So that's one way to do it. Just using your knife skills. Again, take your time, believe me. You don't want to have an injury because you were working a little bit too fast. Now, Claire has a utensil that I love because I love garlic. I like to find ways to make it easier to use garlic. I started the same way. I took that garlic clove off of our bulb, right? And I took the paper off. So now it looks like this. Can you open that up for me, Claire? See how this goes? And look at how they made it an oval. So it's like you can even just fit that little garlic right in there. Now, you probably could fit 2 garlic cloves in there, but we already minced one with our knife. Go ahead and close it. Hold it up, and you can use 2 hands if you want to, and give it a good squeeze. Really squeeze it, Claire. Look at that. How fun is that? That is some finely minced garlic. And you can see it did take a little bit less time, didn't it? There's lots of these kinds of tools on the market. The ones that are all stainless steel are probably your best ones. But for about, I don't know, $6, $7, $8, you can get one of these. Sometimes I'll give it an extra squeeze just to see if there's any little bit extra in there. And there was. All right, there are 2 cloves of garlic. So let's check. We've got everything except for the beef broth. Let's go back to our instructions. We did step 1, didn't we? We did the meat. Remember how we did that in the flour? Step 2 is really going to be bringing all of our vegetables in a saucepan with a little oil. Now, one of our saucepans has all of the beef in there, so I'm going to just use a separate saucepan. I'm going to add another little bit of oil in there, and we're going to lightly saute those vegetables just to really bring out the flavor of our garlic and our onion, and then it's all going to go in the pot. Are we ready? It's getting fun over here. Now it's getting interesting, and I just wish you could be in this market right now. Does it smell so good? Oh.
Put it right in there. Good job. So now that Claire has all of the tomato paste in with the beef broth, she's going to go ahead and give it a good stir there. And you don't have to use a beef broth. You could use chicken broth, you could use vegetable broth, and you could also switch out your beef in your stew for a chicken, or you could omit it completely. And that would help you if you're a vegetarian or on a diet that doesn't allow you to have meat.
All right, this is so fun. So I'm looking through here, it says place the meat on top of vegetables, and now we're mixing in our beef broth. So now that we've got, can you hear that sizzle? I love it. Now that we have our vegetables and our garlic and our beef all set, we're gonna transfer that into the crock pot, all right? I'm gonna set this over here. I know you're ready for the next step. Let's just be a little patient. Now remember what I said at the beginning, that my crock pot isn't all that big? So this recipe is really for, you know, it can feed 8 to 10 people. It's gonna have, you know, a lot in it. So you're generally would wanna use a much larger crock pot. So I'm only putting in half of this recipe. If you have a little crock pot like I have here at the market, you might decide to just have the recipe. Or I suppose you could do something else fun with your sauteed beef, or pop it in the fridge and just make it again for the next day. So I'm only adding again half of what I've sauteed here, and that's just because my crock pot is not that big. All right, Claire, I think we're ready for this step, which is pour in this mixture of your beef broth and that tomato paste. Carefully pour that in there. Can you do that for me? Great. Awesome. Now one of the ingredients, because it's St. Patty's Day, one of the ingredients on here is a bottle of Irish stout beer. Maybe I should pour this in since I'm over 21, right? So you can use any stout beer you want. And again, you could probably omit this and just use some more beef broth if you would rather not use any alcohol product. This is going to burn off, your alcohol will burn off when you're making your stew. All right, this is looking amazing. So I think we've done pretty much everything on this recipe except for the very last bit. Now, here's where it's fun when you're doing a cooking video because it's like magic. You put the top on, you put your timer on, in a couple hours you check on it. This recipe says on high for 6 hours. Might be a little bit less than that. Let's come on over to the finished product. Okay, now this is where it's important, where we are going to look at the very last bit of the recipe. And Claire, can you just read this last little bit? We're going to pretend like we were in a time machine and 6 hours have passed, and now you have this amazing finished product over here, which is your, oh my gosh, this stew looks so good. Can you see this? Scoot over here, look at this. Now the last little section right here.
Enjoy this traditional Irish dish for St. Patty's Day and all year around.
And what do we say? Finish
by adding salt and pepper to taste and garnish with rosemary.
All right, so you guys met Jimmy. He's hovering right over here, and I'm gonna need him now because you're gonna be our taste tester, Jimmy. And it's okay if you don't have your mask on because we're gonna need you to do a taste. Why? We said finish with salt and pepper to taste. Come on over, Jimmy. We're gonna put a little, you're the first person to try this. Are you excited? Yeah, are you excited? He said do a little dance. So here, we're gonna add just a little bit of the beef in there, okay? So there's a little sample size. I'm gonna let you stir it up, and I want you to taste a little bit. Claire, you can take your mask down. I'm gonna let you try a little bit too. Now your mom made this earlier today, and it's been roasting all day. Everybody that's come into our market has been like, oh my gosh, what's that amazing smell? But we haven't tasted it yet. So what do you think, guys?
Good. If it didn't think it was good, then I want to eat it.
Could add just a little bit of salt and pepper? Okay, so here's my advice with seasoning. You can always add more. Can you say that with me? You can always add more, but you can't take it out. Say that with me.
But you can't take it.
So what is it? You can always add more.
But you can't take it.
Exactly, and that is doubly, triply true for salt. Salt can make a dish amazing.
Like once I put it on my hot dog.
If you add too much, you're like, the whole thing's ruined. You can't take it out. So what is it again? You can always add more, but you can't take it out. So we're gonna do just a couple of twists. I like to use fresh ground sea salt if you can. Just do a couple of twists. We're gonna try it again. I'm gonna give you a fresh, I'm just gonna do one little spoonful. What do you think? I know I'm feeding you like a little baby bird. Is that a little bit better?
Way better.
I'm telling you, there's something about just a little bit of salt goes a long, long way. Now, just like what Samantha was saying, you like with a little bit of salt, it just brings the flavor out. What Miss Samantha was saying about using your recipe in a lot of different ways. Where is that recipe? This is your template. And you can switch out the meat, take out the flour. You can make this gluten-free. If you have some concerns about blood pressure and you have to have a very low sodium diet, no problem. Don't add the salt. That's one of the huge benefits of making your own food. Not only is it fun to do with your family, you're learning together, you're experimenting together, but you get to make it just the way you want it to be. If you don't like onions, don't put it in. If garlic upsets you, don't add the garlic. That's what's great about making your own. It's also one of the reasons I like to do gardening, because we get to plant whatever we want. So cooking, you get to cook whatever you want, and it's just for your taste. Now I like a little pepper. And I know Jimmy, our taste tester, just went away, but do you want to try it with just a little fresh ground pepper? And again, this could be added at the end too, like a garnish. But I think just a little salt and pepper goes a long way. Salt and pepper is underrated. I just feel like everything could use a little salt and pepper. If you're doing something savory, add just a little bit of salt and pepper. See if that's even better. What do you think, Claire? Look at the camera. Yeah? Okay, now, let's not forget. Oh, Rosemary, you harvested this today, didn't you, Claire? If I was having Grandma and Grandpa O'Brien over, we're Irish and we love to celebrate St. Patty's Day, or maybe we were having a family meal, I would definitely take a little sprig of this rosemary, right? I would put the soup in a beautiful little bowl, and I would put a little rosemary sprig on the side. You know what else I would do? I would have some homemade crusty bread, and I would make a salad. I'd probably use some of our microgreens. I would use some of our fresh spinaches. I would add some maybe of our carrots and our onions, and have a nice fresh green salad. And guess what? That's it. That's your recipe. What do you think? A little rosemary on there, a little fresh salad, some of this amazing, this is sourdough bread we have at the market. I bring it home every week because I love it. That's a really good meal, isn't it? All right. Do we dig it? Dig it! Thanks, friends.